Oh, good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, the 5th of June, 2025. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning and it's bitterly cold. My watch says it's -1. You'll get a bit of frost here on the ground, but I think it's more than -1 and it is pretty damn cold. For context, I'm back in Goulburn after having been in Launceston for quite a while. Come back to Goulburn just to start of winter, which means I've really got rocks in my head. But I had to come back for appointments and things, so I'm here. I have a route in mind today. I'll just run that and talk about things as I normally do. That's one of my recent videos. Somebody commented, "We're just a bloke taking a run, thinking out loud." And that's how I like to think about it. YouTube exists as a platform for people to make content and express their opinion about things that they're interested in. And so that's what I'm doing, expressing my opinion about things that I'm interested in. I invite you and welcome you to comment. I don't expect you to agree with my comments or my opinions, but I'd only ask if you were commenting that you comment on the content, things that I've said, because that's something you can have an opinion about. All right, all of that out of the way, let's get into today's subject. I've been reading a book by Ivan Cleary. If you don't know who Ivan Cleary is, he's the coach of the Penrith Panthers, and by any measure, he must be considered one of the most successful coaches of the National Rugby League era, because his team has won the last 4 premierships in a row. And that's an event, or an achievement that is unprecedented. The last time anyone came close to that was when Jack Gibson won the premiership 3 times in a row with Parramatta. And that was before the NRL era. Cleary's book is called "Not Everything Counts, but Everything Matters." And it's a book about leadership as much as it's a book about how to win football games. But by showing good leadership, you take the players and the rest of the club personnel, and then hopefully the fans and supporters along with you, and you do win football games. And ultimately competitions. And he must be doing something right, because he's done that. I don't want to talk so much about his book, though, as about the general idea of coaching and the upside of it and the downside. A little bit more about the downside. Now, coaching is a results-driven business. You win games and you're successful. And if you lose too many games, you're considered unsuccessful and you'll be shown the door. And in an earlier video, I talked about Ange Postecoglou, who is currently the manager at Tottenham in the English Premier League. And although he's just won this Europa League thing, he lost too many games in the Premier League for some in the club to be satisfied with his performance, and he may well be shown the door. Now, if you are a football club or a team in any sort of league-based sport, you want to win things. That's why you're there. You want to win things. And your fans and supporters want to start the season with the hope that their team can win. You all want to think your team's in with the chance of winning the competition. Now, the reality is that probably only half the teams in the competition are in with a real chance. But before the season starts, you hope that the club has bought the right players, that the coaches got some new ideas, some fresh ideas, and that everybody else at the club is, as Ivan Cleary says, on the bus, that's buying into whatever the philosophy is, that it's going to get the results that everybody wants. If you're a new coach to a club, you probably sign a 3 or maybe 4 year contract. And that seems like a reasonable period of time for the club to give you to say, well, we expect to win things. We expect to win the competition. Or we at least expect to be playing in the finals or the playoffs or whatever they're called in the competition that you're following. And if at the end of the 3 years you've achieved that, then maybe you'll get another 3. If not, well, you might do it on a year by year basis, or maybe 2.5 years in, when it's become obvious to us that you're not going to achieve the things that we want, then we'll start looking for someone else. Football is a business, or all sport is your business. And there's no room for sentiment. It can be a ruthless business in that players and coaches are shown the door, fired, sacked, whatever terminology you want to use. Sometimes it might appear to be on a whim. We just decide to get rid of that player. He doesn't fit our culture or whatever. Now I'm leading up to a point here, and that is in relation to Michael Maguire. Now if you don't know who Michael Maguire is, he's the coach of the Broncos in the National Rugby League. Now I don't know him, and I don't really have any interest in the Broncos' performance, but I do know that since they came into the competition, I think about 1988, they're a big club with high expectations of themselves. They expect to play finals football every year, and they expect to win the competition. I think they won 5 or 6 premierships in their time, and anything less than doing that is unsatisfactory as far as the club is concerned and management is concerned. Now, in the last 7 years, 6 or 7 years, they've had 4. Maguire is their 4th coach. They appointed him at the end of last year, when one of their favourite sons, Kevin Walters, who had won 5 premierships with the club, so knew about winning, knew the club's culture, knew their expectations, and knew about winning competitions and what was needed to do that. Their club management had come to the conclusion at the end of last season that Walters was not the bloke to bring them the silverware they're looking for. So they decided not to renew his contract and to get a new coach. And Michael Maguire had been, was available because he had coached the New South Wales team to a series win in the state of origin, and suddenly people were talking about him as if he was the greatest coach that ever picked up a clipboard. He had won a competition with South Sydney in 2014, was promptly sacked the next season. He had also been at the West Tigers and had been sacked from there as well. But as one of the great English football coaches of the round ball football, soccer, noted a bloke called Tommy Docherty, who'd been sacked by many clubs, noted once, there are 2 types of coaches. Those who have been sacked and those who are about to be sacked. So, well, a guy being sacked from anywhere is not necessarily indicative of his abilities or otherwise. Anyhow, he gets his job at the Broncos. He must have known what he was taking on and what the club's expectations were. And if he didn't, I'm sure that they were spelt out to him very quickly once he got his feet under the desk and his training gear on. Now, Broncos aren't doing very well this year. They're about the middle of the table, and they lost the last 4 or 5 games. And so already, less than 8 months into a 3-year contract, there are people talking and calling for Maguire to be sacked. And some of that comes from the pundits who are paid to write opinions like that, and they're paid to come up with clickbait headlines. Some of it comes from the fans and supporters on social media, but I can't help but think the bloke's not even 1 year into his job, and you're already giving up on him. You're already saying, get rid of him, get somebody else. And there's a saying that if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So if you keep churning through coaches 4 in 6 years or 7 years, then you're just repeating the same old thing you've been doing before, and you'll get the same result. Maybe 2 years into his time there, 2.5 years in, he hasn't achieved the things that the club expects. Maybe that's the time to be looking at and saying, oh, was this guy the right choice? There's a bigger thing to think about here. When the club's successful, it's the players who get all the plaudits. And the club does badly, it's the coach who faces the music. And all those coaches that are constantly under review, likely to be sacked, they're all human beings. I don't think anyone could be saying any of them don't turn up and put in their best effort. I don't think anyone could be saying they don't work hard or they don't do the best they can to get the result that's expected of them. They have wives or partners, they have children, families, and imagine if you are, this is before he was on his earlier stints at Panthers, and also when he was every day he goes to work. The newspapers are full of stuff about how he should be sacked, and team papers, and it's all his fault. He comes home from work at the end of the day and you were treading on eggshells, not wanting to ask me how his day was. Ivan Cleary, in his book I referred to earlier, he was talking about a period where he suffered depression, and he suffered it because the team wasn't doing well. So Ivan Cleary had talked in his book about having suffered from depression. Teams that he was coaching weren't doing well. He felt that people were judging him and looking at him all the time, and they probably were. And he said he was lucky he had his wife and his family around him to sort of pull him through it. So imagine that you are the child of a bloke is coaching a football team that's not doing very well, and you're reading in the papers, you're not reading the papers, things are being written about your father, and it's usually your father, but there could be your mother's, for too long as women's professional sport continues to grow and more women take on coaching roles. You go into school and other kids are giving you a stick about his dad and how he can't do his job and he's going to be sacked and all that sort of stuff. Pretty hard stuff to deal with. So I suppose the point of all this thinking out loud and rambling is that football or sport in general brings out the passion in people. Everybody wants to do well. They want their team to do well. I mean, everybody wants their club to win. A coach wants to win because that'll prove that he's a good coach. He might even get a winning bonus. Morning. Get his contract extended. And you know, if he's like Cleary or Wayne Bennett or Craig Bellamy in the NRL, Alex Ferguson, Bill Shankly, Bob Paisley, people like that, he'll go down in the annals of the sport as being one of the great coaches. So, coach wants to do well, and I don't think anyone could say of any coach in this modern era of fully professional sport and all the money that's involved in it, that a coach isn't doing his job or trying hard enough or putting enough effort in. For the club, for the supporters, give the bloke some time to be able to get his feet under the desk, get a feel for the club, get a feel for an understanding of the players that he's got, some of whom are on longer contracts than he is and more money than he is. And when he got there, whether the sort of player that he wants or not, he hasn't got to that point yet. He's turned up as a new coach, let's say, and there's a squad of players. You might be looking at him and thinking, most of these guys are all right. There's a couple of blokes that are, and I've watched them play before, they don't fit my style of my foot, and I'd like to get rid of them and get someone else. And they're going, oh, I've got a 3-year contract, mate. I've got a 3, 4, 5-year contract. So I'm here for a long time. And the other thing is, to give the coach time. Each coach comes with a philosophy, an idea of how they want to play the game, but also an idea of what they think the club and the people in it should be like and how they should present themselves to their supporters and community in general. Sometimes it's referred to as the culture of the club. Sometimes it's referred to as just the club having its standards and expectations, and every coach's version of that is going to be slightly different. So the coaches got to be given time to implement that as well. And yes, your team's not doing well, you're entitled to be unhappy about it. If you're a gambler and you lose money, that's on you though. That's a choice that you've made. And you have to accept that you win some, you lose more. That's the nature of gambling. Got a shoelace that's undone. It can't be a case of, well, I bet the grocery money on the team winning this week, and they've lost, and now I can't feed the family. That's not the football team's problem, that's your problem. What I'm saying, I suppose, a roundabout way, it's taking me half an hour to say it, is, of course we want the team that we support or follow to do well. We have a right to have expectations, hope the coach does. But the team will do well and the club will perform well. That gives the person that's appointed time to do their job. And people calling for a coach to be sacked 6 months into the competition that he's got a 3-year contract for, that all sounds to me to be, if I'm putting it kindly, a little bit dopey. Well, thank you for watching. If you have a comment or an opinion, you know where to leave it. If you'd like to subscribe and share and all that sort of stuff, would appreciate that. And I'll catch you when I'm making the next video.